What's going on, everybody? It's Andy's Automotive here. I'm going to do the right side on this 2015 Dodge Journey. I'm going to replace the hub bearing. I'm going to try to go through the process. This is the best I can do for the video, so I'll try to let you guys kind of watch how this process works. Hopefully I got enough time. Alright, here we go. I'm actually going to use the torque wrench. I've already sprayed everything down, and I'm going to dismount with aero coil, so your WD-40, PB Blast, or whatever. I put it on 120 foot-pounds. We'll see if it actually breaks loose at that. Left side of the vehicle is on the ground, right side is elevated, so therefore the transmission actually is going to keep this locked down. There's proper tools for this stuff, but this will suffice. Yep. 120. So I know we're going back on with 120. It's a screw gun, it's not an impact. Just makes things easier sometimes. Out of the way. Alright. And what I'm doing is using the rotor, a heavy duty screwdriver, to actually push pressure against the caliper. That's going to help me get just a little bit of free play in there. That way I can slide it back on after the fact. If you can see, more than likely not, but there is hopefully the camera doesn't fall out of there. There's a slight gap here now on the pad, not very much, but just enough. That'll enable me to slide it off once I once I take off the caliper. So you do that before you start dismounting anything else. It just makes it a lot easier. 13 for the caliper bracket, caliper itself. Alright. Now you got quick tools. Again, screw gun. Makes things a lot faster sometimes. I gotta go to work in a little bit, so makes this a lot easier. Alright, we'll take this caliper off. Now, the thing is, if you got bungee cord, you can hang it up on the top of the spring, or use the brake line bracket here. The bracket itself is the strong point. Just a second, get some zip ties. Hopefully you guys can hear me. The white noise in the background is a fan because it's really cold outside. It's like 45 degrees. I know some places it's a whole lot colder there. FYI, safety glasses, especially if you are going to be grinding or hitting or any other thing like that where something could get in your eyes. Don't be stupid. Your eyes are very important. Alright, take the caliper off. Alright, see there? I'm just going to pass it through the upper bolt hole. Zip tie, very, very simple. Alright, if you got two people, obviously this is much easier. I'm going to go up around this brake hose. Not the hose, but the actual bracket that mounts it. Get that there. If you have thicker zip ties, obviously that'd be better. Again, it's going on the brake hose bracket, and you're not going to damage anything. Just be careful with it. Don't break the hose. So I got it hooked up here. Hopefully you guys can see this. Let's see, yeah. Got it hooked up on the bracket here. It's not gonna hurt anything. There's no tension on the caliper itself. As long as the zip tie doesn't break, we're good. I did notice that we got appears to be a leaking strut here. So this baby's gonna have to get replaced soon. Car's got 160,000 miles on it, I think. So at this point, we're gonna remove the caliper bracket with the pads in it. I'm not gonna take them off because I have space here. These are spring loaded, all right? Take that out, pull the rotor off, and keep going. And again, if this video is not satisfactory, you can shove it. Use my flip socket here, a 19 and a 21. Get my extension off. These are 21 millimeter back here. All right. That's what we're going off next. When the vehicle's in a situation to where you can break it loose in this manner, with one wheel on the ground, the other side's jacked up, you've taken a lot of weight off. So you can either turn the steering wheel if it's in neutral, or if the car enables you to. It's got automatic start with the key, so it's letting me do it, no problem. Break these guys loose. A 3/8 ratchet is going to be very difficult here because there's a lot of effort on these bolts sometimes, especially if they're corroded. And you can kind of already see how everything's wet. That was me putting the air coil. Once we get that on there, it helps things break loose. I went and ate a little snack for dinner while I was at work. Off. There we go. Very simple, guys. Very easy parts changing here. I do pull these out before I put them back in. I actually take this. The video I watched earlier, you know, people asked about greasing the hub bearing and doing all this other stuff. This is not your old school hub bearing. These bearings are sealed completely. Here's the new assembly. All right, very nice and smooth. You could feel this area when you turned the old one on the left side, how it was grinding really bad. So you see the spokes in there. All right, that's for your axle, the key. All right, 5 lug, always make sure you got it. Also, it only mounts one way on the car, right? So even though they look very similar, this is actually a smaller area than this, so it only goes on one way. Again, when you take the old one off, make sure you get that washer that sits right here in between the axle. All right, so you take the pin out. Again, you don't have to do this, but I always do this out of habit just because I want to make sure that everything's nice and lubricated. This grease is pretty wet. I like to use Molykote Molykote graphite grease. Works very well. I do put anti-seize on the large caliper mounting bolts just because over time they oxidize and they do seize up over time sometimes. So we're gonna just put anti-seize just a little bit, standard gray, nothing crazy, nothing high heat or special. I also apply a little either graphite grease or anti-seize just to the back plate of the pads, just to make sure they stay nice and healthy. Also, it helps with noise reduction. Rotor off. I'll use my drill to clean out these holes. Turn around the back, clean that a little bit too, so it's a nice, much cleaner mating surface. Yeah. So now our axle, you see that? Very loose and moving. I did not spray anything inside, only at the back and the front. So fortunately, these axles aren't seized up. I live down in Georgia. Down south, so we don't really have to worry about anything with freezing over. So 15 millimeter ratchet wrench, a couple different options. Flex head, 15 millimeters, standard straight, and just slightly angled, but you can come in both sides instead of like some of those that are only one-sided. Stupid. All right, so let's see. Yeah, very loose. I mean, I'm not a crazy strong guy, but these are very, very loose. I mean, not loose, don't get me wrong. They're tight, but they're not torque tight. So flip around, get the back side. Remember, guys, lefty loosey, righty tighty. All right. Here. Please focus on what you're doing. You really don't want to hit your fingers. especially when it's cold. Take the back left bolt is the one we take out first, because it seems to be not only the most difficult to get to unless you rotate the wheel again, but it just makes it easier. But comes right out. You got 4 of those guys. Make sure you get them all. Alright, come back in with my favorite toys. Well, I do it. Don't you hate when you misplace your stuff that you got in your hand? Well, rolled up behind me, no big deal. Alright, we'll put the 15 on here just to make this a little faster. I am a little bit in a hurry. 1. For the 15th time, this is not an impact, it is a Bosch screw gun. Do not think I'm impacting anything. Clearly you didn't hear the impact noise either. Alright, last one's down here on the bottom. Go that guy out. And this angle is your most optimal angle to do this job. It makes it a whole lot easier. You know, a while ago I loosened up on the left side, I loosened up these 2 bolts up here for the, too bright. Loosen up these 2 bolts here for the brake hose and all that. There's really no unnecessary tension on the hose, so I'm really not concerned with it. I'm going to leave it alone this time. Do not forget 10mm for the back of your ABS sensor down here. And you're going to break the bolt loose. No big deal. Nice and easy. It's a good time to look at your serpentine belt. You know, she doesn't have the cover on this side of the car, but she does have wide access here just in case I needed to do anything. Just got one small 10mm bolt. Okay. ABS sensors, sometimes they move, sometimes they're stuck. Do not try to push it out from the bearing. I mean, I guess you could do that, but watch this. All the bolts are out. I'm gonna push the axle out. Look at that. I just showed you. All right, there's no washer here, but in this situation, it stayed on the axle. Do not mess that up. The left side, I did not realize it had a washer on it, but now I do, so I'll put it back on. This bearing, it's loose. You see how easy it spins around, but it is still fairly tight. So because these are so cheap, I'm not gonna save this for the customer because it's kind of pointless. These bearings are like $50 to $100, parts stores, whatever, but you can get them online, Amazon, eBay these days from a pretty reputable place. Even Napa and AutoZone and all them sell parts online, by the way, just so you all know it's not a quote-unquote eBay part. But again, see the size difference here and here. So the wider one goes at the top, and sometimes you can kind of see just how it's made. And from that, put them side by side, always on the ground, and compare them hand to hand to make sure they're the same. You don't want to get an issue where you have a bearing that's not correct. So you can see the sensor here. All right, let's see, I hope. Yeah, so here's your sensor. So I could just push it out, but you see all that crap it's got on it? So let's move it real slow maybe. All right. Try to rotate the back just a hair, just to get it wobbly. Because you don't want to be trying to put a hub bearing in with a sensor in there. And there you go. Just like that. It's not broken, it's not damaged, it's a little dirty. We'll wipe it off, clean it off, no big deal. Put that up there for a minute, keep it out of the way. Hope this camera angle is a little better. Like and subscribe. Again, there's a little bit of trash in here, so you know, if you got a vacuum on hand, obviously that's really fast. So come through with the screw gun drill. way. Make sure you don't grind on your actual CV boot here. I would highly recommend brake cleaner. I've got carburetor cleaner on hand. I need the aerosol push, to be honest with you. Again, do not lose your washer. It goes in between the back of the hub bearing and the axle. I'm gonna hit this. All right. That's another reason I got the fan going in the back. Spray out the holes. Make sure there's nothing that's gonna clog in the way. Hopefully this doesn't get on my phone. All right, I'm gonna come back with some basic alcohol, right? That's all here. They don't want all that additional. Clean your threads off. Clean your spline off here. No biggie. Normally I have brake cleaner by the case, but I did not have it. Got my microfiber towel here on the ground. Clean off this guy here. Look at that parts cleaner. All right. Get ready. Paper towels, wipe it down. I'm showing you guys how fast this can be done if you know what you're doing, right? And having these videos to help you understand what you're doing in the first place is a big help, because the slightest mistake can cause you to die. I'm not gonna lie. If you don't do this correctly, you forget to tighten the main bolt down, you forget to do anything that you should have not forgotten to do, it can be life critical, not only for you, but for all the people on the road. Public service announcement. Disclaimer, I'm not responsible for what you do to your car. If you watch this video and work on your own car, that's your own fault, your own responsibility, etc. There's plenty of body shops and automotive shops all over the place that can do this job for you. Second public service announcement. If you're scared to drive in the rain, get off the road. Turn your freaking headlights on at night and in the rain. If you're driving a white, gray, light silver car, nobody can see you if it's foggy outside and you don't have your headlights on. Let's use common sense here, folks. Very easy common sense. You know, it's funny, a lot of the old people blame the young people, but I see the old people doing it just as much. And I'm 31, but I see all them older gentlemen and ladies that talk about young kids not knowing how to drive, but they're the ones over in the fast lane doing 40 miles an hour. Not good. Maybe some of you cops should give people bigger tickets for driving with no headlights on at nighttime. Or maybe at dusk and dawn, you know, instead of worrying about people speeding 5 miles, 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. How about that? All right, washer. Going back on. Remember, it goes on first with this CV axle. See, I got a lot of movement here. We're not changing the axle out. In the event you had to change the CV axle, you have access right in here to pop it out. This is the long shaft through bar. You definitely want to lubricate that mount behind there because a lot of times it gets seized up and it's very difficult to get out. You don't want to have to take the entire assembly off. But in the event that you cannot squeeze this out of here, which you cannot, you can either A, loosen the lower ball joint and swing this whole assembly up a little bit, or both the tie rod, outer tie rod, and the lower ball joint and swing it out, or you can simply take off the strut top and then lay it down. However, when you take this off, chances are you're going to need an alignment to correct any camber that you just changed. Keep that in mind, okay? Here we go. Put some new rubbers on. Rubbers are gloves, just so you know. No perverted speaking. Again, this is a 2015 Dodge Journey. So far my clock is at 19 minutes. I think my videos record for about 34 minutes before they stop and start a new video. So anyway, so there you go. Everything else is done to this point. We know that the wider side goes on top. My washer is here on the axle. Remember, don't forget that, very important. All right, so we're gonna come on with the spline. Note, the other video I watched, I always read comments on other videos because I like to know either A, what the person did not do in the video or did wrong or whatever the case, or I like to see what people are saying that you A, quote unquote, should have done. All right, there's no reason to put grease on a sensor like this. Absolutely no reason at all. You'll get natural grease and grime from the road that'll do that just fine for you, because chances are it can squeeze in behind the back of the axle here. That's why this is so dirty. You want to make sure your ABS sensor area is clean. The bolt can go straight back in, no problems. You do not need to put grease on this unless the instructions that came with it, if it does, explicitly state that, because you want this to be metal to metal tight. You don't want any movement clearance inside your splines. If you put a bunch of grease in there or anti-seize, chances are you could make it slip in high torque situation, and it could actually strip this out and or the axle. I have seen it. Do not think that it cannot happen. It happened to one of my own vehicles. Not because I put anti-seize or anything. It just happened. It was a factory axle from 1994. So, all right, here we go. Come back in. Washer's on. Always make sure your washer's on. You know what? You can actually look at the wear marks to see where this actually set. And I can see there's a slight, I wouldn't say corroded, see if I can get an angle on it, right here. And I can actually match that same thing on the actual axle. So we're gonna put it on just like that. All right, here we go. I'm gonna come back with the hub bearing. Remember, you can look at it and tell top to bottom. So we're gonna just move this just like here. All right. It's only gonna key up one way, just so you know. Now watch what I did there. It's what I tried to explain a while ago. Say you went ahead and tightened the axle, right? And now you try to put your bolts in. Guess what you can't do? You can't put the top bolt in. You get the bottom ones in. Nope, can't get that one either. Nope, can't get none of these. So here's your trick. Leave it loose. Leave your axle out. Bolts in first. And you can kind of move this around to get them loose. Make sure you can finger thread them first. Alright. You see that's not threading, so I need to move this. Let it out a little bit. Alright. There we go. And the axle is putting just a tad bit of tension, so it makes it a little more difficult. But it's all about the spline. I need to rotate one key here. Let's see. Here's another thing. You would never be able to get these bolts in if you tighten that axle nut down. Just a hair bump. You can see. Looking good. Alright. They're not tightened. Come back in with the back side here. Now again, make sure your axle is clear. And you're going to be able to want to see these pass through and thread. Otherwise you might be in trouble. Hopefully my knee's not in the way. Alright. Thread. Anytime you tighten anything, it's best to do it in any kind of cross or star formation. Again, this back right one is the tighter one to get to, so I'm going to tighten it finger tight all the way first. Finish these off. Now once you tighten one down, the other ones are going to loosen up a little bit. So you're going to need to go on and torque them. Done with the screw gun at that point. Alright, go back with the 13s in a minute. Alright, so now you got all 4 bolts in, right? You got all finger tight and the bearing is tight. I did not put the axle nut on yet. I'll come back with our 15 ratchet wrench. Alright, 1, 2, 3. Alright, number 1. 1, 2, 3. Alright, one more time. Check. 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 All right, there we go. All right, solid. Make sure your axle threads are still clean. All right, here we go. I'm gonna hit a little alcohol on these threads. Got a little water on the floor here, so just to make sure it's good. Clean. We're at 25 minutes now, guys. If you watched this far, thank you very much. Hopefully this video helps you. Come back on with the axle nut. And my little screw gun can get this a fair amount on here on setting number 1. Got 2 settings. Torque is slightly higher on setting number 2. Number 1. Alright. The full charge little battery. Hold this. Put the right socket on there. Again, this is a 1 1/4. Alright, about all we're going to get on that. Does save some hand time though. Standard 1/2-inch ratchet here. Just keep it nice and slow. Make sure the axle's nice and seated. Ain't no reason to rush. This is only taking me 26 minutes so far. Alright, come all the way down. Remember, our foot-pound torque is 120 foot-pounds. The torque wrench is already set. That's what I popped it off at, just to verify. Alright, it's hand tight with a 3/8 1/2-inch. Alright. 120. Yeah, you can't see that, sorry. 120 foot-pounds, there we go. Alright, nice and slow. A couple of clicks in there. Good to go. Let my legs stretch for a minute. Alright, make sure your bearing looks good. This is a good time to double check everything you just did. Make sure you've tightened all the bolts. You got 4 in the hub bearing. You got your axle nut, and you're going to put back on your brakes. You got the 2 main mounting caliper bolts. You'd be surprised at how many times I've seen these bracket bolts loose. They tightened the caliper down just fine, but they did not tighten the main large bolts. Very dangerous. If you took anything else off for any reason, you didn't have to unless you're changing other parts. Come back in here. All right. Fit beautifully. 10mm bolt. Don't forget it. A good question for this is, do I need an alignment? Chances are no. It never hurts to get it checked if it's been a while. But you want to make sure if the bearing was like extremely worn, you want to definitely get an alignment check. And the torque on that sensor is very, very little, obviously, because it's plastic. Don't break it. So I'll move this garbage out of the way. So you have 90% of this job is done. All right, we got our caliper stuff here. Got the rotor. I said I was going to clean it. Highly recommend wearing a dust mask if you do that. As you guys can see, I did not need to use a hammer at all. The rotor was just loose. No big deal. Scotch-Brite pad, just in case you needed to know. Rover. Scotch-Brite. It's the brown. Just scuff up just a little bit. Make sure you have safety glasses on in the event that you're doing this. We can use a little bit of alcohol just to clean off any surface rust or whatever we got sitting there that I've just drilled. Again, this is just alcohol. It's 90%. It's got a little water in it, so no worries. No, it's not going to catch on fire when you go brake. Get all that grime left over. Brake pads will take care of anything I leave, but I did want to make sure these surfaces are as clean as possible. Just putting a new hub bearing, why not, right? Why would you put it on dirty? At 31 minutes, I think I'm pushing for time because I think the video is going to stop on me. And I got to get to work soon. Make sure everything looks good on your hub here. Nice and clean. Very good. Alright. New rubbers. Get those dirty. Not really racing to see how fast I can do this. I'm more so just showing people an idea because a lot of people are very nervous about doing things like this, hub bearings, brakes, etc. If the video cuts off, you should be able to more than handle this job at this point. This was very simple, easy parts change. Got my regular gray anti-seize. It's getting a little old. Need to put a little oil in here. All right, like I said, we're gonna put a little anti-seize on these. Rub it in. Not a lot, just a little. Each one. Not the little bolts, it's not necessary. Definitely the big ones, just because we don't want to see it rust over time and get oxidized. Again, like I said, we'll pop these babies out. Put a little on there. I know it looks like a lot, but I'm using it for the other one too. Yeah, make sure if your brush is old, it's not shedding any new bristles. Put that back in. A lot of times these are the same size, but sometimes one will have a rubber grommet and the other one will not. Pay attention to what location you pull them out of in the event that you do. Sometimes they are indeed different sizes, so just be careful of that. If your brakes are bad or your rotor is bad, obviously this is a very good time to replace them because it's wide open and you just took it off anyway. Why not put new stuff back on, right? I'm gonna get this out of the way. Again, replace rubbers again because why? Because I like clean hands touching other things. All right, we got 33 minutes. If it cuts off, guys, again, I'm sorry, but that was more than enough information in the video so far. We have already torqued the axle nut. I will torque it one more time once everything is on brake wise. Again, I didn't break loose any brake lines. I didn't break loose any of that stuff. One trick real quick, put a lug nut so the rotor stays seated. All right, very simple. Look at that. I'll probably set some crap off here. All right, so I just pop it back on. Are we missing anything? Are we forgetting anything? Nope. Anti-seize, 33:58. Let's find out if it starts me a new video. 34 minutes and counting, looks good. All right. If it starts over, I do apologize. I will not be putting